Good morning. Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Bob Lee. What you see today in this exclusive Outside the Lines investigation will likely disturb you on a number of different levels. A college coach, his All-American athlete, an inappropriate relationship, a university's response such as it was, and the undertone of volatility in this coach-athlete liaison, which then exploded into a nightmare of threats and violence. Now, there is graphic subject material in this report brought to you by our John Barr.
You can run, but you can't run. I know exactly where you're going to be every day. I'm going to get you somehow, some way. I just have this feeling you need to suffer. I don't care if I kill you and I kill myself. I don't care.
Before the threats and the fear, before all of that, there was just a pure love of the sport. The simple act of throwing a shot or discus as far as she could took Bailey Gibson to a place she felt in total control.
The adrenaline you felt before you got in the ring, it was just like a high, kind of like it's you.
As a high school freshman in her hometown of Casper, Wyoming, she won a state championship and would go on to set records in both shot put and discus.
Girls 4A discus, Bailey Gibson, a huge favorite. She throws it so far it goes out of the screen. I couldn't keep up with her.
By her senior year in 2010, Bailey could throw a discus further than all but one other high school girl in the entire country.
What was your dream as it centered around throwing?
To make it to Olympics one day. I'm like, oh my gosh, could you imagine being in that atmosphere and just feeling that?
You're talking about a girl that when practice was over, it wasn't over for her. She'd stay, and she'd throw, and she'd throw, and she'd throw. It was her life, and she loved it.
In February 2010, Bailey signed a letter of intent to attend the University of Arizona. She was sold on the school largely by this man, Craig Carter, an assistant coach for the Wildcats, a married father of 4, who came to Casper on a recruiting visit and quickly won over the family.
Bailey's high school coach was one of my athletes.
Oh, yeah.
And so, she calls me and says, hey, I got this thrower, and that always helps. I start watching her, and she was probably one of the best athletes I've ever been around.
He says, I'll treat her like she was my daughter. I won't let anything happen to her. It's just something that a father is thinking, well, maybe this is good.
Bailey was an All-American in the shot put and discus in her freshman year at Arizona. In her sophomore year, she says, she and her teammates noticed a change in their throws coach.
He had a lot of mood swings, and then he would just bounce back from one emotion to another emotion.
Fellow thrower Julie Levante was Bailey's roommate and best friend on the team.
At throwing, sometimes he would be completely fine, and later on in the afternoon when we would have our lifting session, he would be totally angry, not talking to anybody.
Outside the Lines has learned that during his time at Arizona, Coach Carter was treated for severe depression.
He stopped coaching. He got, I don't know how it's meaner, more aggressive too.
In June 2012, Bailey says, Carter's behavior took a dark turn.
How are you feeling right now?
It didn't go as I wanted it.
Yeah.
After competing at the U.S. Olympic trials in Oregon, Bailey, then 20 years old, says she became intoxicated at a party. As the throwers were encouraged to do, she called her coach for a ride back to the team hotel. She says she doesn't remember what happened next, but says the following day Carter showed her pictures he'd taken in the car.
What were the pictures?
Of me naked. Him doing stuff to me. It was just instantly like, I wanted to throw up. Like, how could I do that? How, how does he have that? How did that happen?
Bailey says she was too drunk to consent, that Carter sexually assaulted her and threatened her if she told anyone about what happened.
He was going to post all of the pictures online so everyone could see what a whore I was. He just said that I would lose my scholarship and I would have all these pictures out, and it was going to be bad.
She says Carter then threatened her with physical harm if she didn't submit to his demands. So she began meeting him regularly for sex in his office and the team room at the track and field training center.
Did you tell anyone?
Because if I did, then something would happen, either to me, my family, or I would be shamed. That's what he said.
What's going through your mind as you're getting involved even deeper with this coach?
I don't want to do this. I don't want any part of it. I just knew that it just killed me inside every time that I had to do that. I didn't want it anymore, but I didn't know how to get away.
Craig, this is John Barr calling from ESPN. I'm a reporter. While in Arizona, we reached out to Carter.
They're portraying me to be this guy that raped this girl for 3 years, when all along it was consensual.
Are you denying that you sexually assaulted her?
Oh, 100%.
Carter says Bailey sent him several pictures and videos of herself naked. And we reviewed several texts and emails she sent him with intimate language, like this one. I don't want to end this with you, and I love you. I do. Our relationship is hard.
There were texts from you and communications from you that would indicate it was a consensual relationship.
If you can't say it's consensual when he's threatening you to do it, I mean, I'd have to say certain things like, I love you, or I have to do all these, like, I'd have to meet him whenever he would like. If I didn't, he would get mad.
The University of Arizona's policy on relationships with students is clear. No university employee shall engage in a romantic or sexual relationship with a student, and any violation of this policy is misconduct subject to termination.
Craig, it was clear that you were not supposed to have any kind of relationship with a student athlete.
Yeah, well, people mess up. People mess up.
Bailey says she continued to have sex with Carter for nearly 3 years, and that her injury-filled career was further derailed by a coach who crossed the line.
Everything about me just totally changed. I hated myself. I didn't look at myself the same. I felt like I let everybody down. And I should never have felt like that.
Did you see any red flags, Bernie?
I just thought she was coming home a bunch. More than what she should be. But we didn't catch the signals right off at all. It was just it's hard.
Bailey says her track coaches and teammates also remained unaware she and Carter were having sex. But that changed in the fall of 2013. According to school records, that's when a track and field staffer saw Bailey and Carter with disheveled clothing in Carter's office and grew suspicious. Carter was called into a meeting with his head coach, Fred Harvey, and athletic director, Greg Byrne. School lawyers advised Byrne to say the following to Carter. Coach, we have received reports of information that may indicate you are having or had a romantic or sexual relationship with a student athlete on the team. In Byrne's notes, he wrote, Bailey Gibson. Carter denied a sexual relationship, saying Bailey comes to him for support.
He had told me that someone had talked to him, and that if I said anything, I would, if they ever called me in or anything, he would kill me if I ever said anything.
Bailey would soon learn Carter's threats were more than words. Coming up, a coach out of control, and questions about whether a school did enough to protect one of its athletes.
I think I said
I'll cut your face up so nobody will ever want you again.
What is going through your mind at that point?
He's gonna kill me. I'm not gonna walk out of your life.
I just want to come over there. I'll bring my shotgun, and I'll just put it in my mouth, and I want you to pull the trigger. Want to be free, I guess you'd have to blow me away, right?
Sexual abuse comes in many different forms, and the NCAA policy on sexual relationships between coaches and athletes applies that term, abuse, to the power differential between coaches and their athletes. Back now to the story of Craig Carter, the former coach at Arizona, and Bailey Gibson, who says for 3 years she was coerced and threatened into having sex with her coach. John Barr now shows us how threats gave way to violence.
It was the morning of April 20th, 2015 in Tucson, Arizona, and a dark secret was about to come to light. Less than a month from graduation, Bailey Gibson, the former All-American thrower, decided to tell her coach, Craig Carter, she never loved him and would no longer have sex with him. But before confronting her coach, she says, she decided to finally tell someone else what she'd been hiding for nearly 3 years, her roommate, Julie Labonte.
I was in shock. I was so mad. I'm her best friend, and I lived with her, and, I didn't see those signs.
Around 5 o'clock that day, with Julie waiting outside the building, Bailey says she walked into her coach's office to tell him it was over. She would later tell police Carter responded by grabbing a box cutter near his desk and came at her, she says, with his hands around my neck and put the box cutter to my face.
It felt just like my eyes were going to pop out of my head. Like, he was pushing so hard, and then he had the thing to my neck, and I couldn't move.
What is going through your mind at that point?
He's going to kill me. I'm not going to walk out of your life.
We are going to be running a story in a few weeks. And we asked Carter about the confrontation when we reached him by phone.
As far as touching her, I never touched her in my life until that day. And if you knew why I did that, I mean, there's no excuse to do that. But I was told, a lot of things for 3 years. And you don't know that she got in my face and yelled, hit me, hit me, hit me, and then shoved me. So, I better just stop. I'm getting pissed off for one thing. And the other thing is I know I'm going to get in trouble for commenting.
Bailey later told police once her coach let her go, he then put the box cutter to his own neck and said, I'm going to kill myself and you're going to watch it. She says Carter eventually let her leave, but told her, you better not say a word. The next morning, Bailey says, Carter showed up at the house she shared with Julie.
And he was texting me, I'm waiting for you to leave. I haven't seen your car leave yet, and he's banging on the door.
I just remember being so terrified. I thought he was going to come in and just shoot us or something,
Bailey says she grabbed the only thing she could think of for protection, a hammer, as she and Julie locked themselves inside a bathroom.
We were both crying hysterically, and she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Think about calling the police?
No, because I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if they would arrest him right then. I mean, if he didn't get arrested and I was still at home, I felt like he would have killed me.
Carter eventually left, and a few hours later sent Bailey this picture with what appeared to be a gun barrel in his mouth and the message, bye, I love you. He then later wrote, well, after sitting there for 20 minutes, I didn't have the balls to pull the trigger. You win. He later told police it was a piece of pipe, not a gun.
You should have never put your hands on me.
Well, actually, I probably should have killed you.
5 days later, at Julie's urging, Bailey says she recorded a phone call with her coach.
If I come into your house and do it, and Julie gets in the way, I'll blow her fucking out.
A recording that was eventually turned over to police.
I know exactly where you're going to be every day. So don't tell me that you're going to call the cops, because when are you going to call them? when I bust through your window with a shotgun loaded coming right at you, you gonna call him real fast? Think they'll get there in time?
Bailey says she managed to avoid Carter for more than a week, and despite his increasingly hostile threats, was determined to graduate. But on April 29th, he was waiting for her again, this time outside one of her classes.
She's being harassed by a male? Yes.
When a student called 911, Carter left the building.
He was saying things like, you need to leave here with me, and trying to pull her away.
Minutes later, he emailed Bailey saying, "You just dug your grave," one of a number of threats he made over several days against her and her family.
Maybe that's what I should take away then. Something that matters to you. Like your mom. It don't have to hurt you. It can hurt somebody else. It means a lot to you. But she'd be a good too.
I could have cared less at that point that if he killed me. But the point when he brought in my family and friends, that was the main part where I was like, that can't happen. Sorry.
Bailey says she no longer felt safe in Tucson. So she met her mother at a relative's house in Las Vegas and told her what she'd been through.
I just held her and she cried, and that night we went to bed and she woke up I don't know how many times screaming in the night, having dreams, and one of them was, "No, don't kill my mom, don't kill my mom."
She had a dream like that?
Oh yeah, I was right there in the bed with her.
She said, "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to quit loving me." That's hard.
Craig Carter was arrested May 1st, 2015, hours after Bailey spoke to police for the first time.
You said you had the box cutter, did you? It was in my pocket and then I pulled it out, yes.
Outside the Lines obtained this video of his interrogation.
I think I said I'll cut your face up so nobody will ever want you again, because I'm not going to have anything in either of you.
Carter is charged with 4 felonies, including aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He could receive nearly 30 years in prison. The University of Arizona denied our request to interview head track coach Fred Harvey and other officials, but released this statement. As soon as the student-athlete informed us of Carter's actions, we immediately turned that information over to law enforcement and suspended him. But what about back in November 2013, a year and a half before Carter's arrest? That's when he was called into that meeting with his head coach, Harvey, and athletic director, Greg Byrne, and when he denied a sexual relationship with Bailey.
At that time, what else was done to investigate whether there was anything inappropriate going on between you and Bailey?
I don't know what they did. And all I know is after that conversation, that was that's the last I heard about it.
So you just had that one conversation with Greg Byrne and that was it?
Yep.
But court documents reveal something else about that 2013 meeting. School lawyers also advised Byrne to ask Carter, "What will Bailey tell us if we talk to her about what you have said?"
Who contacted you?
Nobody.
Nobody? Nobody ever asked you what happened that day?
Nobody ever asked me anything about it.
Instead, Bailey was sent 2 emails from the school's anti-harassment office, informing her they received a report she may be involved in a personal relationship with an employee of the university, and listing campus resources she could contact if she wanted help. She never responded.
All they did was to interview him, who has every incentive to lie. One would say that that was deliberately indifferent. So this is my medal, one of the medals.
Attorney Nancy Hogshead Makar, a gold medal winning swimmer during the 1984 Olympics,
Here you go, ready?
specializes in gender issues in sport.
What she needed was some TLC somebody reaching out for her. The school owes her a duty of care. Those rules are in place not for him. The rules are in place to protect her.
They should have talked to her face to face. I have no idea why they didn't do that. Conceivably because they wanted to protect Coach Carter and protect the good name of the school.
We wanted to ask Greg Byrne why he didn't do more to investigate Coach Carter back in 2013.
We are so excited to be here at the University of Alabama.
But he's now the AD at Alabama and declined to comment. 6 months after graduating, Bailey, under the name Jane Doe, filed this civil lawsuit against Carter, as well as Harvey, Byrne, and the University of Arizona, claiming they didn't do enough to protect her. Carter and his wife responded by suing Bailey, claiming she pursued a sexual relationship with her coach to destroy his career and family.
This was a man who admitted he attacked her with a knife. And now he's claiming it's her fault, and he's suing her for it. It makes absolutely no sense.
Craig Carter's criminal trial is scheduled for August, and he remains out on bond.
You can't run. Unless the FBI puts you on some protective list and moves you far away and changes your name.
He took away my dream. He took everything away from me.
And then there's Bailey Gibson. She's back home in Wyoming.
I still see a car that he had, even here in Wyoming, and I think it's him, and my heart stops. It's not ever going to be over, I feel like, until justice is done.
John Barr reporting. Craig Carter has been ordered by the court to have no contact with Bailey Gibson, but he was recently granted permission to move to Utah. Both Carter's criminal and civil attorneys declined our interview requests. As of late April, Carter's civil case had cost the state of Arizona more than $335,000. That's a cost the state is compelled to pay because Carter was a state employee at the time of the alleged harassment, but none of that money is being used to pay for Carter's countersuit against Bailey Gibson. John Barr continues his reporting online at ESPN.com, exploring the power dynamic between this coach and this athlete and the percolating violence over the course of several years. Please check it out. It's important journalism. Seven days from now in this space, the launch of the Sunday Morning E60, a collection of stories to begin your week. Many of those stories from outside the lines. I'll be here each Sunday morning with Jeremy Schaap with E60 storytelling and the reporting of Outside the Lines with OTL each weekday afternoon beginning at Monday, May 15th for our new studio, Studio Z. Now, for 17 years in this time slot, I have sent you each Sunday morning to the Sports Reporters, a program that has distinguished itself for 29 years with literate opinions and lively conversation. It is my distinct honor for the final time to now say it is time this Sunday morning for the Sports Reporters.